June to, obviously, to October. So I have more time and I will be practicing much more.
Good.
Yes, that was just decided and I thought that I had given you the most recent update. Okay. Jack, just wait and see what we'll do to you. Jake DeShazer, American soldier, December 7th, 1941. He hurled that potato out of his rage. After a month, he volunteered to become a bombardier, also known as bombardier, on a mission. However, when he was in flight, the plane ran out of fuel, drops to enemy territory. Nothing to do but to be a prisoner of war to the Japanese. He spent 3 years as a prisoner of war, but after 2 years, he was given a Bible. He wanted to read that, and he was so filled with rage, he almost went insane. After reading the Bible, he found a new love in his heart for the Japanese people, forgiveness, love, and a commitment to them. So turning that pain of chains, ropes, wires, and being a prisoner into being a missionary to the world. He was very much loved in the Japanese society. So our ability to accept the changes and the challenges, are they constrained by chains, ropes, and wires? Jake DeShazer did not find that. Another story, Japanese Americans. During World War II, my parents, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives were incarcerated during World War II in a Japanese American concentration camp. My father was in Minidoka and my mother was at Tule Lake. They were not married at the time. My father early 20s, my mother teenager. And yet they were in a room maybe half this size, 20 by 20, one light bulb, potbelly stove, no running water, and no privacy. Can you imagine raising a family of half a dozen people in a little room like that? No water. However, they decided that they were going to turn that situation into something good. They made the most of it for their children. My dad, still at 98, still speaks of his experience being incarcerated. He calls it internment, but it was actually incarceration because there were barbed wires, guards with the guns pointing in, not out. They didn't worry about people coming in. They wanted the people in not to get out. So they were prisoners. Yet out of that camp, a group of soldiers emerged. They were the most highly decorated unit in U.S. military history for its size and length of time in service. The 100th 442nd Regimental Combat Team. They were something else. They were without equal. Over 18,000 medals, 18,000, can you imagine? And 9,486 Purple Hearts. And it's because of their bravery and the amount of and the people that were wounded as well as pronounced dead. Even though those Japanese American young soldiers, young men volunteered, what they wanted to do is put that shame aside and go towards a higher calling. And that higher calling would be to prove their loyalty and make a way for the Japanese generations below them, like me, could have a better future. And this also helped Japanese coming into this country have a better future because they set the example. They set a standard so high that it just brings tears to my eyes. There were no AWOLs. The only AWOLs was the reverse. There were men in the hospital or recovering, sneaking out so they could go back to war. And this was the story of Senator Daniel Inouye, a lieutenant in the Army, and his arm, he was injured, and the only reason he went in for help was because he almost passed out from a loss of blood. The soldiers came into him and he goes, well, did anybody call off this war? And he said, and they go, no. He goes, well, get out there and fight. That was his motto, is to go out there and be brave. But when he came back to the United States, a decorated lieutenant with one arm severed, he went into a barber shop to get his hair cut. He thought, oh, nothing of this, I'll get my hair cut. Well, he gets in the barber shop, And they said, we don't cut Jap hair. So at that point, he determined that he was going to dedicate his life to civil rights. He was planning to be a doctor, but with one arm, it would be hard to be a doctor. So he became a lawyer, and he was over 60 years as a senator. Second longest senator in U.S. history, next to Byrd, I believe. In the words of a Japanese proverb, fall 7 times, but stand up 8. And I wondered, as a Japanese American, how did these people, how did they weather the storm? How did they face that humiliation, discrimination? And really, they were not even given a trial. They were put into jail with no trial. Now, is that fair? No, but they went past that. And it was, what I discovered was the code of Bushido. The code of Bushido that samurai warriors lived by. And it was a code of honor. They were willing to die rather than dishonor members of their family or the code. And it also, this code of Bushido was the anchor in a sea of turmoil and a guide through that maze of life. And still in today, Japan is one of the safest, most honest country in the world. And that's why I love to go to Japan. I go any chance I can. I just came back in April. It's because of that code of Bushido. And the code of Bushido has been passed down almost by stories and pressure from society and expectations. Because I was always told, don't do anything that would shame the family, shame the Japanese, because everybody's watching you. And back in the 60s, they were. I was bullied, teased, called names. My eyes are different, all those types of things. But I did not want to let that define me. So I took that also, like the samurai, I put that, the soldiers put that shame aside, because I want to know, what is it that made me different? What is it about those samurai warriors? They live by this code of ethics, that 7 principles that they were willing to die for. Courage, Yuki. Integrity, Gi. Benevolence, Jin, not the drink Jin, right? Respect, Rei. Honesty, Makoto. Honor, Mayo. And loyalty, Chugi. Those 7 principles, 7 words. Do the right thing all the time. Do the right thing all the time. And that is their motto. And that is still their motto today. These 7 principles can be summed up in one word, I believe. And as an author, I took the liberty to include that in my book. It's called Gambaru. Gambaru means try your hardest, do your best, never give up, and go for broke. Never give up. That was what my parents told me. And even I can remember when I was young, I'd be sitting in front of the television. Oh, you're sitting down doing nothing. Well, here's some mending to do. Here's some chopping of vegetables. Here's some cleaning out the drawer. Never was there a dull moment in my life as a daughter to the farmer. Now, how many of you would believe that I'm a farmer's daughter? I am. If you ever saw me work, you'd know. I am a farmer's daughter. And also the imperative form, gambate, means to do. They would say that before a test. They would say academic tests, especially going college entrance exams, games, and then even after the hurricane, tsunami, and earthquakes, they have said that. They cooperated. Gambate. That was really amazing to see how right after 2011, did you see looting, pilfering, stealing? Over $70 million was returned to the rightful owners in the first 6 months. Bringing it back to me, 2005 and 2007. I was rear-ended twice. It wasn't my fault, I was rear-ended. First one, I was left with chronic pain. About half my body felt like it wasn't, I was in so much pain, it felt like it wasn't even attached. It wasn't part of my body. And then 2007, I knew something happened because my brain just wasn't working. I knew something was different. So that put me on a really long journey, helped me face my fear of doctors and get over that fear. So my goal was The Courage of a Samurai. And this book was printed in originally 2015, then on Amazon 2016. And as she mentioned, 2020 is going to be re-released. So I'll have some over there for sale. Also, I worked at the prison, so this is part of that chains, ropes, and wires. And I found a group of women occasionally that wanted to take that time and better themselves. They could work on personal development, anger management, get their GED, and do all these things that they didn't have time to do. And some said, you know, I'm safer here than I was out on the streets. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, was in the Nazi concentration camps, and he was determined to live in order to tell the world what happened. How could this happen? Nobody would believe him, if he were there to tell the truth. And he found that man has to have a reason for living. His book was, at his death, over 10 million copies, translated in 24 languages. So we live in a world full of constraints, do we not? Chains, ropes, wires, but it's what you do with it. Viktor Frankl, Jake DeShazer, the American soldier that found a new purpose in his life, the 100th 442nd Regimental Combat Team. They paved the way for Japanese American generations. The Code of Bushido shaped the nation of Japan. And writing a book helped me to overcome traumatic brain injury. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, found freedom by realizing his captors could literally, physically constrain him, but they couldn't control his mind. And the women incarcerated at prison, they found new freedom also. So we all encounter those obstacles, but it's your ability to see and to do. What are you going to do with them? It's your ability and your choice to do. So that choice is uniquely yours. Ladies and gentlemen.